At 2 in the morning. My secretary sent me a photo. My husband had his arm around her waist, sleeping soundly. Girl, he said, you two haven't had feelings for each other in a long time. I stared at the screen and burst out laughing. Then I logged into the group's internal network and clicked on legal person change. Direction of change. Reclaim. She wants to be the president's wife. Fine. But this CEO title will be gone tomorrow. 1:47 a.m. My phone buzzed. Ji Tang woke from a light sleep, not even bothering to lift her eyelids as she reached for the phone on the nightstand. The screen's brightness made her squint. A WeChat message. The note name was Zhou Yang, secretary to Rong Han. She clicked it. A photo. Rong Han was sprawled across an unfamiliar gray sofa, the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone, tie hanging askew, head tilted to the side, fast asleep. The camera angle was a top-down shot. Only someone sitting right next to him could have captured that. Ji Tang's fingers paused for a second, then swiped down. There was indeed one more message. Sis, President Rong Han had too much to drink and will be staying at my place tonight. Don't worry, I'll take good care of him. A smiley face was tacked on at the end. Ji Tang stared at the smiley face, thumb pausing on the screen for 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sneer. It was the easy, relieved smile that comes after suddenly figuring something out. She threw off the covers, sat up, leaned against the headboard, and slowly opened that photo again. Zooming in. The coat draped over Rong Han was camel-colored, double-breasted. Last year's fall-winter limited edition from Max Mara. Ji Tang remembered this coat because it was hers. Last Wednesday, she'd gone to the company to have lunch with Rong Han and left it in his office by mistake. She'd even messaged him then to bring it back. Rong Han had replied, "Forgot. Next time. Next time." So that's how "next time" was used. Ji Tang put down her phone and went to the bathroom to wash her face. The person in the mirror had no redness in her eyes, no trace of tears, only a pair of very calm eyes, like a lake's surface covered with a thin layer of ice. She dried her face, walked back to the bedroom, and picked up her phone again. Long pressed the photo. Save. She opened her contacts and scrolled to a number. At 2 a.m. Ji Tang made the call. The other end picked up after 2 rings. CEOE. The voice was hoarse, but alert. What's wrong? Song Chirong. Ji Tang sat on the edge of the bed, her voice as casual as if she were remarking on the nice weather. You still have that divorce agreement. A second of silence on the other end. Song Chirong's voice carried not a hint of surprise. Yes, the one you asked me to draft 3 months ago. Its terms are even more detailed than that prenuptial agreement of yours. Not tomorrow morning. Ji Tang said, "Send it to my email now." Another second of silence. Then Song Chirong said, simply, "Okay, end of call." Ji Tang didn't put down her phone immediately. She opened the company's internal app. The page took 2 seconds to load. The group management system interface popped up. Welcome, Ms. Ji Tang. System access level, maximum. She clicked into personnel management, then senior management information. Rong Han's name was at the top of the list. Position, Group CEO. Date of appointment, June 15th, 2019. Appointer, Ji Tang. She glanced at the appointer's name, the corner of her mouth twitching upward. She exited personnel management and opened company structure legal entity information. Legal representative, Ji Tang. Shareholding ratio, 68%. This number hadn't changed since the day the company was registered. Never changed. Ji Tang locked the phone screen and put it back on the bedside table. Then she did something else. She pulled open the bedside drawer and took out a pack of Marlboro menthol cigarettes. She'd quit 3 years ago, when Rong Han said, "It's not proper for a girl like you to smoke." She'd quit that day. Now she pulled one out. placed it between her lips, and flicked the lighter. Smoke cleared. A cool, minty sensation rushed into her lungs. She leaned against the headboard, exhaled a puff of white smoke, and gazed at the ceiling through the haze. 2:15 a.m. Ji-Tang opened WeChat and went back to the chat with Zhou Yang. Typed, received, send. Then another line. Thank you for your hard work. I'll leave him in your care from now on. Send. She closed the chat with Zhou Yang, opened another group Tong, Hung, group management group. 1,024 members. Ji-Tang posted the screenshot she'd just taken into the group, then typed a line. Notice to all. As of today, my marital relationship with Mr. Ronghan is hereby dissolved. Ms. Zhou Yang will be responsible for Mr. Rong's daily life from now on. Congratulations to the two of you. Additionally, effective immediately, I am reclaiming all management authority over the group. Mr. Ronghan's position as CEO is suspended pending further notice from the board of directors. She glanced at it, felt something was missing, so added 2 words at the end. Good night. Send. She tossed the phone onto the pillow, powered it off, and went to sleep. A faint smile lingered at the corners of Ji-Tang's mouth as she closed her eyes. These 3 years of marriage were like a game of chess been giving away pieces, letting the opponent think the board was theirs. Now it was time to close. 8 in the morning. The alarm went off. Ji-Tang woke up promptly, didn't linger in bed. She sat up, picked up her phone, and pressed the power button. The moment the screen lit up, buzz. Messages came flooding in like crazy. 147 missed calls. 900 plus unread WeChat messages. 32 unread texts. Ji-Tang opened the missed call log without changing expression. Ronghan. 83. Rong's mother. 24 Yang. 7. Deputy General Manager Han. 12.21 other unrecognized numbers. She didn't reply to a single one. First, open WeChat. The management group chat had gone into meltdown. At the top was the message and screenshot she'd sent in the early hours. Below it, Bisa President Khan. What does President G mean by this? CFO Zhao Wei. I'm completely dumbfounded. Director of Marketing. Did someone post this after a drunken night? Director of HR. Wait. I just saw the notice about the legal representative change. It's already been updated on the company intranet, but that's not right. Hasn't the legal representative always been Director of Legal? Everyone, calm down. I just checked the business registration. The legal representative of Tonghan Group has always been Ji-Tang. Always has been. A full 7 minutes of silence followed that message. Then Vice President Han said, so these 3 years, Mr. Rong, no one responded. Ji-Tang flipped to the very bottom. The last message was sent by Rong Han at 10 a.m. Ji-Tang. What the hell are you doing? Withdraw that message right now. Let's talk. Ji-Tang looked at the message, typed 3 words. No need. Sent. Then left the group chat. The water in the bathroom ran loudly for 15 minutes. When she came out, Ji-Tang had already changed. Black tailored trousers, a white silk blouse, hair pinned up, revealing a sharply defined jawline. The doorbell rang as she was putting on her shoes at the entrance. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. 5 rapid rings, as if the person pressing the doorbell was about to push the button through the wall. Ji-Tang ignored him. Then a voice came from outside the door. Ji-Tang, open the door. Ronghan's voice was hoarse, urgent, with a hint of barely suppressed anger. Ji-Tang, let me explain. Nothing happened last night. Ji-Tang crouched at the entrance, leisurely tying her shoelaces. When they were tied, she stood up, picked up her bag, walked to the door, and opened it. Ronghan stood outside, still wearing yesterday's shirt, wrinkled and rumpled, hair a mess, dark circles under his eyes. The moment she opened the door, he stepped forward. Ji-Tang stepped back half a pace, turned sideways, not giving way. Dodging the hand, he reached out. Rong Han's hand froze in midair. What do you need to explain? Ji Tang looked up at him, her tone flat as if she were asking him the temperature today. Last night, Zhou Yang. Rong Han's voice faltered. She acted on her own. I was too drunk to know she took the photos. Oh, I had no idea she would send you that message. Yeah, what you posted in the group was way too impulsive. I know. Ji Tang cut him off. Her voice was very soft, but Rong Han froze, because Ji Tang was smiling. That smile sent a chill down his spine. Impact. Ji Tang tilted her head. You mean the impact on the company? Of course it's the company. Rong Han. Rong Han. Ji Tang called his name, her voice very calm. That's my company. For words, like being drenched head to toe in a bucket of ice water. Rong Han's lips moved, but no words came out. Ji Tang walked past him. Her shoulder brushed against his arm, and even that fleeting touch carried a sense of distance. The divorce papers are in your email, she said, pressing the elevator button, her back to him. Read them and sign. Have Lawyer Song contact me. The elevator doors opened. Ji Tang walked in, turned around to face Rong Han. Rong Han stood in the corridor, frozen to the spot, face ashen. His lips quivered twice. Ji Tang, you can't. The elevator doors closed. His face, along with his unfinished sentence, was shut out. Ji Tang leaned against the elevator wall, tilted her head back, and let out a breath. Her face was reflected in the metal ceiling, eyes very bright, not a single tear. The elevator descended. Her phone rang again. Ji Tang took it out and glanced at it. A message from Song Churong. The agreement has been sent to Rong Han's email. Also, the company's legal department received the share freeze notice this morning. The 2% of shares under his name can't be touched at all. Ji Tang replied with a simple Then another message came. By the way, come by the law firm today. There are some documents that need to be signed in person. All right, let's have breakfast first. I brought you some hot soy milk, 2 steamed buns, and a serving of xylongbeo. Ji Tang stared at the message, stunned for a moment. Then the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. After 3 years of marriage to Rong Han, he still didn't know what she ate for breakfast. Song Churong had remembered it for 8 years. She put her phone back into her bag. The elevator reached the first floor. The door opened. It was sunny outside. Ji Tang stepped out, her footsteps light, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off. Song Churong's law firm was located in the west of the city, with floor-to-ceiling windows facing a grove of ginkgo trees. By the time Ji Tang arrived, the soy milk was still steaming. Song Churong sat behind the desk in his impeccably tailored suit, black-rimmed glasses lending him an air of refined restraint. He slid the breakfast in front of Ji Tang, then leaned back in his chair without rushing to speak. Ji Tang sat down, picked up the soy milk, and took a sip. Sweet, half sweet, exactly her preferred sweetness level. Go ahead, Ji Tang said, taking a bite of the bun, her words muffled. Song Churong pulled a stack of documents from the drawer and slid them across the table to her, holding up 3 fingers. 3 copies. First, the divorce agreement. Asset division follows the prenuptial agreement. All Rong Han gets is his personal apartment and 30% of the marital savings. Ji Tang noted. Second, a motion to remove the CEO. You hold 68% of the shares. Once you sign, the board can wrap up the process by tomorrow. The third one. Song Churong paused, his voice softening. Tong Hang Group's name change application. The steamed bun in Ji Tang's hand paused midair. She looked up at him. Song Churong's eyes were calm as he adjusted his glasses. Back then, you named the company Tong Hang, taking 1 character from your name and 1 from his. Now, change to what? It's up to you. Ji Tang lowered her head, thought for a moment, took a bite of the bun, chewed, swallowed. Tingsu, she said. Song Churong noted it down on the document with a pen. No questions asked. Ji Tang added, a new order. My order. A faint, fleeting twitch tugged at the corner of Song Churong's mouth, as if he was holding something back. He handed over the pen. Sign here. Ji Tang took the pen. Her hand was steady when she signed the first document, steady when she signed the second. For the third, the pen tip paused for a moment over the applicant column, just a fleeting moment. Then she pressed it to paper, writing the two characters Ji Tang in a clean, crisp stroke. Song Churong retrieved the documents, arranged them neatly, and placed them into the file folder. I'll deliver the divorce papers to Rong Han's place at 2 this afternoon. If he refuses to sign, he'll sign. Ji Tang finished the last sip of soy milk. Song Churong looked at her. Why are you so sure? Ji Tang set down the cup, leaned back in the chair, and crossed her legs. Because if he doesn't sign, at tomorrow's board meeting, not only will he lose his CEO position, but his 2% stake will also be diluted. Did you include the valuation adjustment mechanism clause? It was set up 3 years ago. Ji Tang gave a faint smile. I didn't just decide to get a divorce today. Attorney Song Churong was silent for 2 seconds. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. 3 years ago. He repeated the time. It was the day of Ji Tang's wedding. She'd looked stunning in her white wedding dress, smiling beautifully. Song Churong had stood in the last row of the wedding guests, watching her walk down the aisle with her arm linked through Rong Han's. After the ceremony, he'd gone to the restroom and stood in front of the mirror for 5 minutes. After coming out, Ji Tang had sent him a message. Lawyer Song, draft a valuation adjustment mechanism for me and embed it into the supplementary clauses of the prenuptial agreement. At the time, he'd thought it was just her being cautious in business. Now he finally understood. She'd never intended to give herself away from the very beginning. Ji Tang. Song Churong put his glasses back on. Huh, you finished your breakfast. Hom. There's a steamed bun crumb at the corner of your mouth. Ji Tang wiped her hand across it. Not there. Song Churong pulled a tissue from the table and handed it over. He didn't step forward to help her wipe it off, just handed it over, his gaze calm as he looked at her. Ji Tang took it and wiped it herself. I'm off. She stood up. The afternoon stuff is yours to handle. All right. Ji Tang walked to the door and suddenly turned around. Song Churong. Yes. Thanks for the breakfast. Song Churong remained seated. You're welcome. I'll bring you another one tomorrow. Ji Tang didn't reply, but her steps seemed a little lighter as she walked away. The door closed. Song Churong leaned back in his chair, tilted his head up. There was nothing on the ceiling. He closed his eyes, his Adam's apple moving slightly. It had been 8 years. Norus. He'd waited another 3 years. Waiting a bit longer didn't matter. 10 minutes to 2 in the afternoon. Rong Han had waited in the apartment the entire morning. Ji Tang's phone was unreachable. No reply on WeChat. Even the smart speaker at home had been remotely unbound. When he asked Xiao AI to leave a message for Ji Tang, the system prompted, "This account has been removed." He sat on the sofa, having changed his shirt, but his complexion looked even worse than in the morning. A laptop sat on the coffee table. The company intranet displayed on the screen. His permissions had been frozen. He could open email, but all approval, HR, and financial systems displayed access denied. Rong Han's fingers rested on the keyboard. Knuckles white. The doorbell rang. He looked up, stood up quickly, and almost rushed to the door. The person outside wasn't Ji Tang. It was Song Churong, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, carrying a briefcase. A professional, polite smile was on his face. Mr. Rong, Song Churong nodded slightly. I am Ms. Ji Tang's legal representative. Rong Han's expression darkened. Where is she? Ms. Ji has authorized me to handle the divorce proceedings on her behalf, Song Churong said, lifting the briefcase slightly instead of answering directly. Is it convenient to discuss this inside? Rong Han stared at him for 3 seconds, then stepped aside sideways. The two sat in the living room on either side of the coffee table. Song Churong opened his briefcase and took out the documents. Movements unhurried and steady. Divorce agreement. The property division plan will be executed in accordance with Article 7 of the supplementary terms to the prenuptial agreement. You may review it. Rong Han didn't reach out to take it. He leaned back against the sofa, arms spread across the backrest, chin slightly raised. Attorney Song, HM, what's your relationship with Ji Tang? Song Churong adjusted his glasses, expression utterly unruffled. The relationship between a lawyer and their client. She called you at 2 a.m, and you answered. Rong Han said, something churning deep in his eyes. I am her personal legal counsel. Being on call 24/7 is a basic professional requirement. Song Churong said calmly, looking up at Rong Han. Mr. Rong, let's get down to business. Rong Han didn't respond. His eyes settled on the agreement. Silence lasted over 10 seconds before he reached out, picked it up, and opened it, reading page by page. Page 1, dissolution of marriage. Page 2, division of property. Rong Han Group shares. The 2% stake held by Rong Han shall be converted based on market value and settled in a lump sum in cash. Real estate. The villa in the eastern part of the city belongs to Ji Tang, premarital personal property. The downtown apartment under Rong Han's name belongs to Rong Han. Joint savings after marriage. Ji Tang 70%. Rong Han 30%. Rong Han flipped to this page, fingers tightening on the edge of the paper. 30%. The prenuptial agreement is in black and white. Song Churong said, you should have read it when you signed it. Rong Han's jawline tightened into a straight line. He continued flipping. Page 3. Valuation Adjustment Mechanism, VM, clause. During the term of the marriage. If Party B, Rong Han, commits any act that violates marital fidelity obligations, Party B shall automatically forfeit the CEO position, relinquish all management authority over the group, and have share dividends calculated at 50%. Rong Han's pupils constricted slightly. He looked up. This one. His voice was hoarse. Did I sign this? Song Churong took out another document from his bag, turned to the last page. Signature field. The 2 characters Rong Han were written in a bold, flamboyant style. Date. 3 years ago. The day of their wedding. Rong Han stared at his own signature, the color draining from his face bit by bit. He remembered signing the prenuptial agreement that day. Ji Tang had said with a smile, it's just a formality. Feel free to take a look. He'd been at the peak of his pride and ambition. With the Ji family's daughter marrying him, his future was boundless. Why would he bother reading the fine print? With a flick of his pen, he'd signed it away. Mr. Rong, Song Churong's voice was calm and measured. You now have 2 options. First, sign the papers. Follow the agreement. You can keep the apartment and 30% of the postmarital savings. With your abilities, starting over isn't entirely out of the question. Second, don't sign. Song Churong, close the file. In that case, according to the clawback clause, Ms. Ji has the right to initiate a full liquidation against you at the board meeting. That photo Ms. Zhou Yang took last night, while not solid evidence of infidelity, is enough to trigger the Code of Conduct Review clause in the company's bylaws. Once triggered, you won't even have the chance to cash out that 2% stake. The living room fell silent. The clock on the wall ticked away. Rong Han placed the agreement on the coffee table. He didn't sign, but he didn't say he wouldn't sign either. I want to see her, he said, voice low, hoarse. with suppressed emotion reverberating within it. I want to talk to Ji Tang face to face. Song Chirong looked at him, silent for 2 seconds, then stood up and snapped his briefcase shut. I'll pass that along, but whether Ms. Ji sees you is her decision. The signing deadline is 72 hours. Failure to respond within the specified period will be deemed as forfeiting negotiation, and the case will automatically proceed to litigation. Song Chirong placed his business card on the coffee table, reached the door, hand on the handle. Mr. Rong, he suddenly turned around. Rong Han sat motionless on the sofa, face ashen. If you want to ask her why. Song Chirong paused. The answer isn't last night's photo. The door opened, then closed. Footsteps faded away. Rong Han sat alone in the empty living room. His phone lit up. A WeChat message from Zhou Yang. Mr. Rong, is Ms. Ji very angry? Should I apologize to her? I didn't mean to. Rong Han stared at that message. Then he deleted it, blocked the contact. The phone slapped down onto the coffee table. He buried his hands in his hair, hunched over, shoulders trembling slightly, not crying, but a belated shudder, like being doused with a bucket of ice water. 3 years, and he'd never realized. The chair he sat in was never his. The next day, Ji Tang appeared at the Tonghan Group building, not through the staff entrance, not via the private elevator. She walked in through the front door. The lobby had a 12-meter high ceiling, footsteps echoing crisply across the marble floor. The receptionist girl froze for a moment when she saw her. PR President Ji. The whole company already knew about that group message from yesterday. It had been blowing up all day. The internal forum in an uproar. Ji Tang gave her a nod and walked straight toward the elevator. As she passed the front desk, she heard a faint whisper behind her. It really is President Ji herself. She actually came. So President Rong isn't in the office today either. Ji Tang stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. The moment the door closed, she saw at least 7 or 8 people in the lobby secretly filming with their phones. Whatever. The elevator ascended. 38th floor. Penthouse. The floor where the CEO's office was located. The elevator doors opened. At the end of the hallway, the office she'd personally decorated stood with its door slightly ajar. The reception desk was empty. Zhou Yang was not there. Ji Tang walked over, the sound of her high heels absorbed by the carpet. She pushed the door open. Rong Han sat behind his desk, but not in his usual posture of leaning back with an air of triumph. He sat upright, hands folded on the table. The divorce agreement lay spread out before him. The moment he saw Ji Tang walk in, his body tensed up like a bowstring pulled taut. "You're here," he said, voice even hoarser than yesterday. Ji Tang didn't sit down. She stood at the doorway, leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed. "Lawyer Song said you wanted to see me. I want to talk to you." Rong Han stood up. "Not to your lawyer. To you. What do you want to talk about?" Rong Han walked around the desk, took 2 steps toward her. "Ji Tang." He called her name, voice low and restrained. "What happened last night was Zhou Yang's own doing. There's nothing between her and me." "I know." Rong Han froze. Ji Tang looked into his eyes, her voice calm. "I know you didn't sleep with her last night. You just had too much to drink." Rong Han's lips moved. "Then why did you?" "Because it doesn't matter," Ji Tang said. Rong Han couldn't follow her logic, brows furrowing. "What do you mean? Whether there was actual cheating or not doesn't matter." Ji Tang lowered her arms from her chest, walked into the office, and sat down on the arm of the visitor's sofa. "Did it ever cross your mind that it was my coat you put over yourself?" Rong Han, his expression shifted slightly. "When you had her fetch your coat, call a car for you, pack your clothes, did you ever stop to distinguish between what a secretary's duties are and what?" She didn't finish her sentence, but that pause carried more weight than any words. "Your secretary sent me a photo at 2 in the morning. calling me sis. She dares to do this not because she's bold. It's because you gave her the confidence. The office fell silent. Rong Han stood still, as if all strength had been drained from him. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Ji Tang stood up. Rong Han, I've been married to you for 3 years. She walked up to him, tilted her head to look at him. They were close enough to see the bloodshot veins in his eyes, the stubble he hadn't shaved clean on his jaw. I never asked how many times you worked overtime. I never called to check how many late-night socials you had. I believed everything you said, never interfered with anything you did. You think that's because I'm generous, but have you ever thought? Her voice softened a notch. I just don't care anymore. These 5 words cut like a knife, silently thrust. Rong Han's face turned pale, not the flush of anger, but the white of sudden realization. So profound he forgot to breathe. Ji Tang took a step back. You've seen the agreement. The terms are clear. 72 hours. The choice is yours. She turned and walked to the door. Rong Han's voice came from behind, very soft, with a tremor. Ji Tang, when did you stop caring? Ji Tang's footsteps paused for a moment. She didn't turn back. Last Mid-Autumn Festival. Then she walked away. The door clicked softly shut behind her. Rong Han stood still. Last Mid-Autumn Festival. He remembered. Ji Tang had cooked a table full of dishes, waiting for him to come home for dinner. He'd worked overtime until 11. By the time he got home, the food had gone cold. Ji Tang had sat at the dining table, 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks placed in front of her. Seeing him come back, she'd smiled and said, "You must be hungry. Let me heat something up." What had he said then? Already ate. The company ordered delivery. You go to sleep first. Then he'd gone into the study. That day, Ji Tang had sat alone at the dining table. For how long? He didn't know. He'd never asked. Rong Han slowly sat back down in the chair, reached for the agreement. His fingertip touched the edge of the paper and stopped. He lowered his head. His shoulders slumped inch by inch, like a high-rise building stripped of its load-bearing walls. Ji Tang came down from the 38th floor, but didn't go back to the first floor. She got off the elevator on the 15th floor. This floor housed the group's financial center. She swiped her card to get in. The entire floor of the office instantly fell silent. Dozens of eyes snapped up in unison. Someone nearly spat out the coffee in their mouth. Ji Tang glanced around, her gaze landing on the round-faced girl at the corner desk who was sneaking a few chips. Fan Kidi, the round-faced girl's hand slipped. The bag of chips fell to the ground with a rustle. PR President Ji. She stood up, still chewing chips, words muffled. Ji Tang walked over. The entire floor held its breath. Ji Tang stopped in front of Fang Di and glanced down at her computer screen. Excel was open on top, but behind the Excel sheet, a Taobao page was hidden. There was a pair of 839 yuan high heels in the shopping cart. Ji Tang didn't comment on that. She said, "Pull up all of Rong Han's approval records from the past 3 years. Every single one, including the reimbursement forms." Fang Di was taken aback for a moment, then quickly kicked the chips under the table, sat back down, and started clattering away on the keyboard. "Sure, President Ji. How detailed do you need it? Every single entry must be accounted for." Ji Tang said, "Especially those marked as business entertainment and travel allowances. Also," she added, "pull up the reimbursement records under Zhou Yang's name." Fang Di's fingers paused for a second, then flew even faster. "Got it, President Ji. I'll have it ready for you in 20 minutes. Ji Tang nodded and turned to walk out. As she passed by a row of cubicles, everyone's heads swiveled to follow her like sunflowers tracking the sun. Once she was out the Dorvram star, the entire floor came to life as if someone had pressed play. "Oh my God, President Ji is auditing the accounts." She checked President Rong and Zhou Yang's. Oh no, this is getting serious. Haven't you heard? President Ji is the legal representative. She's the real boss. Then what was President Rong for these 3 years? A tool. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Fong Di didn't join in the gossip. She buried her head in sorting the data. 20 minutes later, an encrypted file was sent to Ji Tang's private email. Ji Tang sat in her car, opened her laptop, and clicked on the file, a densely packed table. She read line by line. The more she read, the colder her eyes became. May 2022. Business entertainment expenses 120,000 renminbi. Remark: entertaining watching group. Attached reimbursement. A hotel invoice for a double suite. August 2022. Travel allowance 30,000 renminbi. Remark: business trip to Shenzhen. The itinerary listed only Ronghan, but the reimbursement form included airfare for 2 people. The other person, Zhou Yang. February 2023. Secretary training fee 80,000 renminbi. Ji Tang looked into it. The money went to a private beauty clinic. June 2023. Holiday bonus 50,000 renminbi. Recipient: Yo Yang. The holiday benefit standard for other secretaries at the same level was 3,000 renminbi. Ji Tang read through each one carefully. Over 3 years, it added up to nearly 1 million renminbi. Not much for a group with annual revenue exceeding 100 million. Not even worth bringing to the board. But what Ji Tang cared about wasn't the money. It was that Ronghan had used money from her company to support another woman. Ji Tang closed the laptop, leaned back in the driver's seat, and closed her eyes for a moment. Then she picked up her phone and sent a message to Song Chirong. Here's one more piece of evidence. Forwarding the document to you. 3 seconds later, Song Chirong replied, Got it. That's enough to trigger the conduct clause. Not enough. Zi Tang Dai. I want him to leave with nothing. After sending that message, she tossed her phone onto the passenger seat, started the engine, and drove out of the underground garage. When sunlight streamed in, there was no anger on her face, no pain, only a cold, resolute calm remained, like a chess player making the final move, steady as ice. For PM, Ji Tang drove to a nondescript office building. Not a company, not a law firm. It was the top floor, housing the private archives of the Tonghan Group. No more than 5 people in the company knew of this archive room's existence. Ronghan was not among them. Ji Tang swiped her fingerprint to enter. Inside, the environment was temperature and humidity controlled. Rows of filing cabinets, neatly arranged. She walked to the very back row, opened the 3rd drawer. There was a safe inside. Ji Tang entered the password. Click. The safe opened. There were only 3 things inside: a yellow document, an official seal, a USB flash drive. That document was the original registration materials of the Tonghan Group. Only one shareholder, Ji Tang. Initial capital contribution, 2 million renminbi. That 2 million had been her first pot of gold from stock trading during college. She'd been 21 that year. Back then, Ronghan had been her senior fellow apprentice, dead broke, working in a lab for his advisor, scraping together a living. She'd fallen for his talent. More precisely, what had appealed to her was his knack for making PowerPoint presentations and handling clients. In the early stages of a startup, you needed a public-facing image. Ji Tang didn't like to be in the spotlight, and Ronghan had a trustworthy face, so she'd made him the CEO. As the company expanded, everyone around her kept saying, Ji Tang, your husband is really impressive. He's built the company into such a success. Ji Tang married well. Her husband is a CEO. No one had ever asked who had appointed the CEO. No one had ever thought. The PPT was made by Ronghan, but the data models, business logic, and strategic planning in it, whose work was that? Ji Tang took out the document, glanced over it for a moment, then put it back and locked it. She took the USB drive with her. It contained the decision records of all core projects over the past 3 years. Every single report. Minutes of every critical meeting. In the decision-maker column, all were signed by Ji Tang. Rong Han only had the authority to execute and sign for receipt. These things weren't usually needed. But now, if Rong Han tried to claim contribution to the company's growth during the divorce and demand a larger share of the assets, this USB drive was an impenetrable fortress. Ji Tang walked out of the archives room. Standing in the hallway, she glanced at her phone. A message from Song Chirong. Rong Han is making a move. He's hired a lawyer. Ji Tang raised an eyebrow. Who? Qin Qing. Ji Tang's fingers paused for a moment. Qin Qing, founder of Qin Qing Law Firm, one of the top 4 matrimonial law firms in the capital. Win rate, 92%. Specialized in high net worth divorce litigation. Known for being ruthless. Song Chirong then sent a screenshot. A group photo from the Bar Association's annual conference. On the left, Song Chirong, smiling, looking gentle and harmless. On the right, a woman with a sharp bob haircut, gold-rimmed glasses, stern expression. Song Chirong's caption, Qin Qing is my senior. Among the 8% she lost last year, 2 cases were against me. Ji Tang stared at the message, a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth involuntarily. She replied with 2 words, arrogant, just the truth. Song Chirong responded. Ji Tang locked the screen, put the phone back into her bag. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window in the hallway, she gazed out at the city beyond. The building was very tall, traffic below looking like streams of ants. She stood for a moment, took a deep breath, then turned and walked toward the elevator. Steps steady, back very straight. Day 3, the final day of the 72-hour countdown. At 10 in the morning, Ji Tang received an unexpected phone call. Not Rong Han. It was Rong's mother, Tang Tang. The voice on the other end was gentle and earnest, carrying the particular mellowness of a middle-aged woman. Mom wants to see you. Is that convenient? Ji Tang leaned back in her office chair, twirling a pen between her fingers. Mom, she called out, voice neither distant nor close, just a habit. Tang Tang, Mom knows you've been through a lot these past couple of days. Rong's mother's voice grew softer. I've already given him a piece of my mind about that secretary business. He knows he was wrong. Mom, Ji Tang interrupted her. This isn't the secretary's fault. A brief silence on the other end. Mom knows. Rong's mother said. That's why I wanted to see you. Some things are hard to explain over the phone. Let's sit down and have a proper talk. Just the 2 of us. Okay. Ji Tang stopped twirling the pen. Thought for 3 seconds. All right. I'll come see you at noon. End of call. Ji Tang tossed the pen onto the desk. She understood what Rong's mother meant. For the past 3 years, Rong's mother had always treated her well, gave her red envelopes during holidays, called to check on her with genuine concern when she was sick, never once put on the airs of a mother-in-law. But not bad. Wasn't. Good. The difference between the 2 was that Rong's mother had never taken Ji Tang's side whenever she and Rong Han disagreed. Not even once. Noon. The Rong residence. An old-style villa in the southern part of town. It had been renovated with Ji Tang's money after the marriage, but the property deed bore Rong's mother's name. Ji Tang hadn't minded it at the time. Didn't plan to mind it now either. She didn't need this one house. The door opened. Madame Rong, dressed in a dark green cheongsam with her hair neatly coiled, smiled warmly as she welcomed Ji Tang inside. Come on in. It's cold outside. Mom made your favorite pork rib soup. The heating in the living room was very strong. The table was set with 4 dishes and a soup. Pork rib soup, stir-fried shrimp, cucumber salad, sweet and sour spare ribs, and a bowl of steamed egg, all things Ji Tang liked to eat. Yet this precise flattery stirred a subtle unease in Ji Tang's heart. The two sat down. Rong's mother ladled soup for her. Drink the soup first to warm up. Ji Tang took it and took a sip. Tasted great. Rong's mother sat across from her, not in a hurry to speak. She picked up a shrimp with her chopsticks and placed it into Ji Tang's bowl. Then another. Ji Tang put down the soup spoon. Mom, just say what you have to say. Rong's mother's chopsticks paused for a moment. Then she put them down. Tang Tang. Her smile faded slightly, tone turning serious. I'm not here to plead for Hung Hung. Ji Tang looked at her without responding. Mom knows you're upset. If you need to leave, then leave. I won't stop you. Rong's mother paused, voice faltering. But Tang Tang, could you go easy on him at the company? Rong's mother's eyes held a hint of pleading. Hung Hung has been there for 3 years. After all, even if he hasn't made any great contributions, he's put in the effort. If you freeze all his access rights, he won't even be able to step through the company's front door. If word gets out, how will Hung Hung ever survive in this circle? Ji Tang held the soup bowl, fingers gripping the rim. She didn't answer right away, looking at the red dates and goji berries floating in the bowl. Then she set the bowl down. Mom, I have a question for you. Go ahead. Last Mid-Autumn Festival, I cooked a whole feast at home, waiting for Rong Han to come back. He got home at 11 and said he'd already eaten. Ji Tang said. Rong's mother's expression stiffened slightly. That day, Rong Han had dinner with you, didn't he? Rong's mother's lips twitched slightly. Tang Tang. That day Hung did say he wanted to go home, but I insisted he stay. I know. Ji Tang said. You kept him here. I don't blame you. That's not what I'm asking. Ji Tang's gaze was calm and direct. What I'm asking is, you knew I was home alone waiting for him, but you didn't let him come back, did you? The living room fell silent. The radiator made a faint sound of water flowing. Rong's mother lowered her head, fingers twisting the corner of a napkin. Tang Tang. Mom. Ji Tang stood up, voice soft but every word clear. Over the past 3 years, things like this have happened more than once. Every time, you just thought, Hung Hang is busy with work. Hung Hung has it tough. But you never considered, I've been waiting. 2. She picked up her bag. I'll handle the divorce matters. You don't need to worry about the company. At the door, she turned back for one last look. Rong's mother sat at the dining table, eyes reddening, lips quivering as if she wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. Ji Tang let out a soft sigh in her heart. The pork rib soup is delicious. Thank you, Mom. Then she opened the door and went out. The door closed. Rong's mother crumpled the napkin into a ball and pressed it against her eyes. She wasn't crying because her son's marriage was falling apart. It was because she'd suddenly realized, for 3 years, she'd taken that girl for granted, like a potted plant. Water it, leave it in a corner, check on it once in a while, and if it looked healthy, just leave it be. She'd never thought that even houseplants could wither, and after they withered, they wouldn't turn green again. 72 hours, the final deadline, 8 p.m., Song Chirong's law firm. Ji Tang sat in the conference room. 2 empty chairs sat across the long table. Song Chirong sat beside her, documents spread open in front of him, pen in hand. The clock on the wall ticked away. 5 p.m. The door opened. Rong Han walked in, followed by a woman. Short, neat hair, gold-rimmed glasses, black business suit. Chin Ching. Song Chirong looked up and gave Chin Ching a slight nod. Senior sister. Chin Ching sat down with a cold expression, ignoring him completely. She slapped her briefcase down on the desk and clicked open the lock with a snap. Rong Han sat down next to Chin Ching. He looked several years older than just a few days ago. Stubble sprouted on his chin. dark circles under his eyes, but he was still focused, gaze falling on Ji Tang's face. Something flickered in his eyes. Ji Tang didn't look at him. She looked at Qin Qing. Qin Qing spoke first. Ms. Ji, on behalf of my client, I would like to raise a few objections to this divorce agreement. Attorney Qin. Please, Song Churong said, gesturing to the file. First, the property division ratio. My client believes that during the 3 years of marriage, he made substantial contributions to the company's management and operations. The 30% share of the marital savings is too low. Song Churong remained silent, glanced at Ji Tang. Ji Tang took a USB drive out of her bag and placed it on the table. Inside are the decision records of all corporate projects at Tonghan Group over the past 3 years. She said, voice steady and even, the author of every strategic report, the signatory of every key meeting decision. All of them were me. She slid the USB drive to the center of the table. Rong Han's signature only appears in the execution confirmation column. So, Ji Tang looked up at Rong Han. You're a well-paid executor, not a decision-maker. Rong Han's hand clenched tightly. Qin Qing's expression remained unchanged as she reached out to take the USB drive. I need time to verify. Suit yourself, Ji Tang said. They're all archives from the company's internal network, with timestamps and IP records. We can have them notarized anytime. Qin Qing put the USB drive into her bag and flipped to the second page. Second, my client disputes the triggering of the conduct clause. The photos do not prove the existence of an affair. This time, Song Churong spoke up. Attorney Qin, the original text of the conduct review clause. He opened the document and read aloud. Any conduct that may harm the company's reputation or give rise to reasonable public doubt. Note, reasonable doubt. The secretary of a married CEO sent a photo to his spouse at 2 a.m., implying the two were alone together. Whether or not anything actually happened, the news has already spread within the company. Song Churong closed the file. A group of over 1,000 people. Screenshots are already circulating outside. I don't need to prove infidelity. I just need to establish that reasonable public suspicion is valid. Qin Qing frowned slightly. She turned her head and glanced at Rong Han. Rong Han's jawline was clenched tight. And there's a third point. Qin Qing's expression turned stern as she flipped to the next page. The equity issue. The 2% held by my client. That 2%, Ji Tang interrupted her, was a postmarital gift for me. The gift agreement clearly states it comes with a clawback clause. She looked at Rong Han. The condition is normal performance of duties during the marriage. The marriage is now dissolved. The clawback clause takes effect automatically. Qin Qing's hand paused over the document. She was silent for 2 seconds, then lowered her head to read the gift agreement word for word. After finishing, she looked up, glanced at Ji Tang, then at Song Churong. She suddenly spoke, tone tinged with complexity. This agreement was drafted 3 years ago. Yes. Song Churong adjusted his glasses. The triggering conditions of every clause are interlinked. Gift revocation, bad enforcement, conduct review, 3 independent paths. Any one of them being triggered is enough. Qin Qing said, you considered all possible exit scenarios 3 years ago. Song Churong smiled slightly, didn't deny it. Qin Qing was silent for 5 seconds. Then she made a move that caught everyone off guard. She closed the file, turned to look at Rong Han. Mr. Rong, her voice was professional and composed. As your legal counsel, I must be straightforward with you. We can't win. Hong Han looked ahead. What did you say? We can't win. Qin Qing repeated. The other side has a complete chain of evidence. The contract terms are legally valid, triggering conditions clearly defined. If this goes to litigation, even the best outcome wouldn't be much better than the current agreement. Besides, she paused. Once the case goes to court, all materials become public. and the damage to your professional reputation will be irreversible. Rong Han's expression shifted repeatedly, gray and white alternating. He placed his hands on the tabletop, knuckles standing out, veins pulsing beneath the skin. Silence stretched on for a long time in the meeting room. Only the ticking of the clock could be heard. Tick-tock. Then Rong Han looked up. He didn't look at Qin, didn't look at Song Churong. He looked at Ji Tang. Ji Tang sat across the long table, relaxed posture, calm expression, like looking at someone who didn't matter. That kind of gaze was more deadly than hate. You don't matter. Rong Han's Adam's apple bobbed. He reached out his hand, took the divorce agreement, flipped to the last page. Qin handed him a pen. Rong Han accepted it. The pen tip touched the signature line, paused for 3 seconds. Then he signed it. Rong Han. Just 2 characters. Strokes heavy and shallow. Indentation scratched into the paper surface. After signing, he put down the pen. The pen rolled twice and fell onto the desk with a crisp sound. Rong Han stood up, didn't say a word, walked straight to the door, hand on the doorknob. He paused, turning his back on everyone, shoulder lines tense. Ji Tang. His voice was forced out from deep within his throat, so hoarse it didn't sound like him. I'm sorry. 2 words. Then he turned the knob and walked out. The door clicked shut. Footsteps faded away. The conference room fell silent again. Qin stood up, gathered the documents, glanced at Song Churong. You win. Song Churong shook his head. It's not about me winning. His gaze shifted to Ji Tang. Ji Tang remained seated where she was, not moving. No triumphant joy on her face, no sense of relief. She just sat there, fingers gently caressing the leather surface of the chair armrest. After a long while, she finally spoke. Song Churong, I'm hungry. Song Churong glanced at his watch. 9:15 p.m. There's a good congee place nearby. Century egg and lean pork congee. Let's go. Ji Tang stood up. The 2 of them walked out of the law firm. The night wind rushed in, carrying the chill of early spring. A few strands of Ji Tang's hair were blown into disarray. She didn't bother to tidy them up. After a few steps, she suddenly stopped. Look up. Stars are in the sky. Not very bright, but visible. Huh. Song Churong said. You mean you'll be alone from now on? She didn't finish. Song Churong stood beside her, keeping an arm's length away. Not close, but not walking away either. You're not alone, he said, voice very soft, as if afraid of scaring something away. Ji Tang turned her head and glanced at him. Under the streetlight, Song Churong's profile was clean-cut, eyes behind the lenses deep and still. She averted her gaze, didn't say anything, kept moving forward. Song Churong followed from behind. Not too far, not too close. The perfect distance. The streetlights stretched the shadows of the 2 figures long, interwoven, separated, almost overlapping. A month later, Tingsu Group. The name had been changed. The logo had been changed. The gilded characters that originally adorned the lobby's feature wall had been removed, switched to the new name, Tingsu. The font was crisp and clean, just like its owner. Ji Tang sat in the office on the 38th floor. This office had been renovated too. Every trace left by Rong Han had been wiped clean. New desks and chairs, new wall art, new greenery. There was an extra electronic keyboard in the corner. One of Ji Tang's hobbies from college, untouched since she got married. She was now sitting in her office chair, working on documents at the computer, fingers drumming rapidly on the keyboard. 3 knocks at the door. Come. Fong Di poked his head in, holding a cup of coffee. President Ji, your Americano. Put it here. Fong Di set down the coffee, but didn't leave. He stood there, lips pressed together, eyes bright as he looked at Ji Tang. Ji Tang noted, what's wrong? Fong Di held back for 2 seconds before bursting into laughter. President G. That person. Rong Han's new company. Registered. It's called Hanyu Technology. Registered capital 500,000 renminbi. The office is in the South City Incubator Park. You know, that park for college student startups. Ji Tang looked down and continued typing on the keyboard. Stop paying attention. It's none of my business. Got it. President G. Fanke di tactfully withdrew. After the door closed, Ji Tang's fingers paused for a moment. 500,000 renminbi. South City Incubator Park. From a group CEO with annual revenues exceeding 100 million to a small startup boss in an incubator park. This was the price of leaving with nothing. Ji Tang felt no satisfaction, no reluctance. She just stopped caring, completely averted her gaze from that direction, like removing a wilted flower from a vase. The vase was still here. Add new water, a new bloom. Near noon, her phone beeped once. A message from Song Churong. There's a new Japanese restaurant nearby. Lunch. After you. Ji Tang replied. I treated last time too. Song Churong sent. Same next time. Ji Tang typed back. Song Churong replied instantly. Okay. Ji Tang looked at the word okay. The corner of her mouth lifting slightly. She shut down the computer, clapped her bag, and walked out of the office, past the secretary's desk. The new secretary, a sharp-looking woman with short hair, stood up. President G. There's a meeting at 2 p.m. I know. I'll be back at 1:45, okay. Ji Tang stepped into the elevator. Just before the door closed, she caught a glimpse of the floor-to-ceiling window in the hallway. The sky was a clear, vivid blue. The ground bathed in sunlight. The elevator descended. Her phone buzzed again. Song Churong had shared a location. I'm here, waiting for you at the door. Ji Tang Dai. A few minutes. No rus. Song Churong replied. Then another message. It's windy today. I brought your jacket. Ji Tang's fingers hovered over the screen. Coat. She suddenly remembered the camel-colored coat draped over Rong Han in that photo from a month ago. Max Mara's last year's fall-winter limited edition. She'd never gone to get it back. No one had sent it back either. No thanks. As for the coat Song Churong was talking about now, it was the black trench coat she'd left in his office last week. He'd remembered to bring it back. Always remembered. Ji Tang put her phone into her bag without replying to that message. But as she walked out of the building, her pace quickened a little. A dark gray Volvo was parked at the entrance. Song Churong leaned against the car door, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a black trench coat. Seeing her come out, he straightened up, took 2 steps forward, spread out the trench coat, and gently draped it over her shoulders. Movements as natural as if they'd been practiced countless times. Let's go, he said. No unnecessary words. Ji Tang pulled the trench coat tighter around her shoulders. There was a faint scent of laundry detergent on the collar, not the kind she used at home, but from Song Churong's place. Pine wood scent. Smelled great. She said. Let's go. The two walked side by side. The early spring breeze slipped through her collar, carrying a hint of coolness, but not cold. Song Churong walked on her left. The wind was blowing from the right, so he blocked it. Ji Tang didn't say anything, but as she walked, she unconsciously moved half a step closer to him, just half a step. Song Churong noticed it. He didn't look at her, but the corner of his mouth curved into a faint smile. 8 years, over 1,000 days and nights, watched her marry someone from afar, stayed close to help her clean up. Was it worth it? He'd never thought about the question, because there had always been only one answer. Worth it. And from this moment on, he no longer had to stand in the back row under the streetlight. At last, their 2 shadows overlapped with each other. If you like it, please give a thumbs up. Thanks.